The Biden administration wants the country to come clean energy, that is. As part of that effort, Democrats on Capitol Hill are proposing a plan to pass a landmark climate initiative. The Clean Energy Standard would decrease fossil fuel energy across the U.S. and could save consumers money in the long run. At least that's what they say. For more on this, I want to bring in CBS News climate and energy reporter Cara Korte. Thank you so much for joining us. So first off, what is the Clean Energy Standard? What are the aims of this initiative?
Well, good morning, Anne-Marie. Whether we know it or not, 1 or 3 Americans actually currently live in a state or a region that's committed to a clean energy standard. And what we're talking about here is a federal clean energy standard. Now, clean energy, the definition is in the name. That's a regenerative type of energy, right? So that's going to be wind or solar power. Clean energy incorporates renewable energy, but it also includes more types of energy. So that could be nuclear, it could be hydropower, it could even be something like coal, as long as there is a kind of technology employed that captures that carbon. It's called carbon capture and sequestration, which would then kind of make it zero carbon energy is another way to say it. So this clean energy standard is something that the federal government wants to implement in order to drive our greenhouse gases down. And what the standard would do is incentivize public utility companies to gradually incorporate more modes of clean or zero carbon energy into the way that they power our homes. And they would do that through monetary incentivization. So basically if it passes, if it's implemented, would instruct utility companies to phase out fossil fuel generating electricity, incorporate new forms of cleaner electricity, and if they do that, if they meet goals throughout a 10-year period, they're given rewards, they're given money, but if they miss that, they're penalized. So basically it's this incentivization program that the Biden White House and many Democrats on the Hill are looking to pass through, and this is very important, through budget reconciliation, which we know, Anne-Marie, means that Democrats would only need a simple majority of 51 votes to pass, and that's the plan right now, what they're hoping to do.
Yeah, I'm glad that you said that. People know that there are these 2 infrastructure bills that are being bounced around Capitol Hill, and one is it will be passed through reconciliation because it's a budget bill. This clean energy standard is kind of folded in that. And ultimately what President Biden says he wants is to create 80% clean energy grid by 2030 and then 100% clean by 2035. That's not an awful lot of time. I get the carrot and stick approach, reward companies for pursuing this goal, and then when they don't, fine them. But it's still an awful lot of money. How's it being received in Washington?
It is a big plan. I'm glad you pointed out those numbers, Anne-Marie, because 2035, the clock is ticking. That is not far away. And when you think about the fact the United States today, our electricity is fueled 60% by fossil fuels. So that's coal, that's natural gas. So to get that down to zero, essentially, in 15 years is an extraordinary goal. And when you talk to climate activists, legislators, people that are experts on our electricity bills and utility companies, they say that this would be a landmark policy. And it is crucial when you think about the president's goals to reaching clean energy, to lowering our greenhouse gas emissions, complying with the Paris Agreement that we are, newly signed back into. This is, a lot of people say, a necessary step because we talked about how our energy right now is fueled mostly by greenhouse gas, fossil fuel producing energy. Also, when you break down greenhouse gas emissions, where they come from which industries. The leading industry is transportation, but right behind the transportation industry is the electricity, the utility industry. So if the Biden administration wants to really attach themselves to this goal, make it happen, giving the United States a 100% clean electricity grid, we're not really sure how they could begin to do that if they don't pass something like a clean electricity standard.
So you mentioned that, different states have similar concepts, and you talk to people all over the country. We said that the Democrats, are also saying that it's going to save consumers money. Have you found that these sort of initiatives do save money?
It's a nuanced question, so I'll have to explain a little bit, Anne-Marie. So in states, we have state-level data that shows that this is not something that has affected utility bills. We looked at Iowa in this reporting. Iowa was actually the first state to implement a clean energy standard in 1983. And if you've ever been to Iowa, you know that you can drive down the highway and see tons of wind turbines. So they have really been committed to clean energy for a long time. Stats show that data shows from Iowa, electricity bills have not fluctuated over time as they've implemented more clean energy. I looked at the state of Virginia, which just last year implemented a clean energy standard, and same data came out of that as well, that energy bills raise a little bit, but when you account inflation, no one is spending more money. Now, the problem with that is that's state-level information, state-level data, and we're not sure what a federal energy standard would look like. So it is not a one-to-one, apples-to-apples situation where we can say people aren't spending more in the states, so they won't be spending more on a federal level. Now, Democrats still say that there's enough technology in place, there's enough incentive in place, that this is something that could potentially save consumers money over time. But when you talk to Republicans or more moderates on this topic, Anne-Marie, they're very concerned about what this would mean for people's pocketbooks, and that is why there's lots of clean energy standard legislation floating around right now. We're not sure what the Democrats are going to go with exactly with this budget reconciliation package, but that there is an argument being made by more moderate folks on the Hill saying that we need to have a more bipartisan approach to this effort. We should not pass this through budget reconciliation. Some people question that it would even be considered for budget reconciliation because of something called the Byrd Rule, which kind of mandates what is considered eligible for a budget package or not. And so these things complicate the future, not to mention the fact that Democrats might not even have their whole party unified behind something like a clean energy standard. We've heard Kirsten Sinema from Arizona be suspicious about passing something through budget reconciliation. Then, of course, Joe Manchin, the Democrat from West Virginia, who has blatantly said that he is not going to support anything that's going to reduce the production of coal in his coal-rich state. These are the questions that still remain and are legitimate hurdles for the future of a clean energy standard.
You just used the word I was going to use. A lot of hurdles to get over first. Cara, thank you very much.